Can everybody please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. All right, is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Good. All righty. Public comment on agenda-related items? Have any? I'd like to open up for the public hearing on the preliminary determination notice.
We got a tag team presentation.
We got what?
Tag team presentation.
You're good.
So yeah, we would like to afford our public an opportunity to see an overview of some proposed projects. So preparing for the future, overview of capital projects. We want to start with our most updated strategic plan and goal area number 3 regarding facility and infrastructure. And I'll kind of go through each one of these because they are important. It leads up to what we're talking about. So provide facilities to meet the current and future needs of curricular and extracurricular programs that promote pride in our community. That was really important as our district put together the strategic plan. And so the objectives of this: ensure adequate learning spaces to accommodate student enrollment, create flexible learning environments conducive to a variety of teaching methods, design facilities to be aesthetically appealing and inviting, maintain and ensure the functionality and care of current facilities, conduct facility assessments that establish short and long-range projects, continue to assess technology, accessibility, and connectivity to best support organizational needs, cultivate intergovernmental partnerships, and update facilities to accommodate extracurricular programming and promote a sense of pride in our community. And you will find that we've aligned with our strategic plan. And so Mrs. Bogathy can talk a little bit about how this has evolved and getting us to this point tonight.
I joke around about this and saying that it seems like we've been planning this and working on this moment right now for probably the last 15 years. But it actually started back in January of 2020 when we did a facility study here in district. And we sent out an RFP and we had interviews in January of 2020. Well, then the world changed a couple months later and things got paused. And that we didn't get a chance to actually award a planning firm until March of 2021. So it was delayed a whole year, let's say. But we did keep some interviews going through there with our team. September of 2021 to May of 2022, we held many community public meetings here throughout the process where we worked through what the needs might be of the district, what the wants would be, what the wishes would be, and we pulled them all into a nice, neat package that would eventually be our facility study. So in the summer of 2022, we also incorporated a demographer report here that would give us some enrollment projections. Again, even looking at this whole process from January of 2020 to summer of 2022, those months look very different. And even looking at summer of 2022 to where we sit right now, things look very different. So in summer of 2022, we had a lot of massive growth projected at that time. The demographer report gave us 3 different models to work off of: a medium or low projection, a probable projection, and a high projection. If I would have put some money on that report back in summer of 2022, I would have said, hey, we're probably going to be a high enrollment. We would probably look at that model the most. But things have since changed and slowed down a little bit in our area of growth and sales in the area, mortgage rates are higher. So we went with the more mild approach, the medium approach for our demographer report there on our considerations in the facility study. So that was one change. Another thing that came about in late August, Lake County, Indiana was very, very late compared to the rest of the state in putting out their assessed value figures for homes in our region here. And our assessed value came back much higher than we had anticipated, with the 21.5% increase, which is record for our region here, based on the new home growth that we've got going on here, the market that was going on in the summer of 2022. And what that did was it gave us a capacity here to plan our projects a little sooner than later and do them within the tax rate, within the current tax rate. So that information came out in August, and again changed. We had to pivot one more time on how we were going to go about completing our facility study. On September 28th, 2022, we held a public work session on costs and priority discussions. So we worked with the board, we had some public hearing, we had all our administrators to go over the options that came out of the facility study, what projects would be high need, what projects would be on the medium table, and what would be future. So we took a look at all of those projects and tried to prioritize those. On October 25th, we held a town hall meeting in this room here where we were discussing planning for the future, the options ahead, the items that came out of our facility study that might help us plan for things like preschool, things for growth, plans for our facilities in general, the aging of our facilities in certain areas, and what we wanted to do. So we had a nice conversation with the public that night about that. And then November 2nd, we held a public board work session to prioritize all of those needs. So all this information that we've been gathering since January of 2020 has now filtered into this moment where we've got a project list and our ideas on paper here of what we want to do.
So we'll highlight specific components of the project, and tonight we've got our Director of Transportation and District Logistics, Mr. Becker, and our Director of Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Wathen, and the two of them will walk us through this slide.
You want to come up there? Let me stand here.
Come over here so the microphone can pick you up.
Gotcha.
So I know everybody's sad that we might tear down our prized gem of the warehouse over by Three Creeks Elementary. But it does have some of its own issues. So Three Creeks gets backed up during the morning and afternoon drop-off, and the warehouse kind of makes that an issue, and it limits our designs that we can do to limit the traffic flow there. Also, my guys can't get in or out between the hours of 8 to 8:30 and to about 1:45 to 2 o'clock. They can't get in and out of the warehouse to even get tools or a part or anything like that. And it doesn't look very good compared to everything surrounding it, because it's an old building, it's been there for a while. So we think the best option is to move it on the west side of the bus transportation garage there. So we plan on demolishing the building and then selling the existing steel, because there's pretty big iron beams in there. So I'll let John go with the benefits of us joining forces.
Sure. So obviously one of the main issue, or the main benefits of actually moving the warehouse over to the transportation center is that it now frees up the land in front of Three Creeks, where we can do all kinds of things with traffic flow, hopefully eliminating some of the need to have cars standing on Burr Street. And that will be especially important if there ever is a plan to extend Burr Street down to Belshaw Road, which I believe is one of the subdivision's plans that's going in down there. It just improves the image of Three Creeks. You get a nice big front view of the building as opposed to half a building and half a warehouse in front of it. efficiency with snow removal. Right now, the snow plows are housed at the warehouse, and the first thing that they have to plow is the transportation center. So if you have your snow plows housed at the transportation center, the guys get here and they just start plowing right away. We're not wasting fuel going back and forth. All of the stuff that they need is right there. So they take care of that big lot and the middle school too, for that matter, whenever they need to do that. And then they can just refuel, they can restock salt, they can do all the other stuff right there and then move on to the other buildings. Ties into the already existing electric, sewer, water, and security systems. Keep in mind that we are over-generating in our electricity here at the middle school already. So whatever electricity we add on with the warehouse staff is going to be no impact on our NIPSCO bill at all. We'll add some gas use, I would imagine, with dryers and stuff like that, but as far as electricity is concerned, we already don't pay a bill here. So that will be a nice benefit to moving it over here. It improves the efficiency between the bus garage, or the buildings grounds department and the transportation department, and the logistics. Jason and I work together all the time, whether it's on HVAC problems or transportation issues or other buildings and grounds issues. We're always back and forth with each other. So having us in the same general location streamlines that process along, as well as allowing us to have share common tools and share common equipment. All of our mechanics would be in one location. Jason has a couple of guys that kind of do some mechanical work on tractors and whatnot, but with all of our mechanical staff at one building, with our bus mechanics and his guys, we have everything we need. We always end up trying to sort out whose bills are whose when the central office sends them over in terms of parts and whatnot. This would make it a whole lot easier. And it improves in efficiency by being part of one of the two largest campuses. So again, we'll be all in one place. It just eliminates the need to wait for somebody to come over. The other thing that's not even mentioned on here is Jason is our emergency bus driver. So if all of us are out driving buses and we have a bus breakdown, Jason's actually the person that we call to bring a bus out to somebody. So if he's actually on campus, it's jump right out there, get a bus and go. It streamlines that process a whole lot.
You should have never told that secret.
It sounds like you're getting.
That's not really a secret.
Lon, like I said, we don't know, so we can't use Lon anymore, so we get to use Jason.
So if you remember back to the strategic plan, the phrase of community pride in our facilities. And so Mr. Deal is going to talk a little bit about this aspect.
Yeah, so you see two buildings are highlighted up there, Lowell Middle School, Lowell High School. Anybody who's come to visit us from Lowell from the east, from I-65, knows that the first building that you really come across besides the Speedway in the corner there is Lowell High School. And right now that greets you with a retention pond, large plot of blacktop, and a nondescript entrance to our high school. And like the flagship building of the district and the flagship building of our town. So thinking about making that more inviting, more aesthetically pleasing, and representing the community pride that so much of the high school and everything and every program that's a part of the high school, that obviously presents an opportunity for us because that's what we want to showcase not only as a school corporation, but as a town. Likewise, if you could come from the north, south, east, or west to Lowell Middle School, you know that you'll see a lot of cornfields and also this large building out here that doesn't have what you might call a lot of character to it, kind of nondescript, and would certainly benefit from something to make it more inviting. Obviously, phrases have been used that we don't have to repeat again about the style of building that it looks from the outside. It's a beautiful facility on the inside. How can we make sure that the outside matches the warmth and the benefits of what's on the inside of the building? Likewise, in both of them, there are multiple points of entrance. Knowing what's the front of the building, what's the back of the building, what entrance do I use for drop-off, what entrance do I use for sporting events, like because the buildings themselves lack that kind of prominent facade or entry point, that would be beneficial to us from just a logistics standpoint of inviting guests, whether they be for programs, athletic events, visitors coming to see the school, professional learning, etc. So those are definite needs and opportunities for us to improve and hit those two goal areas, especially around community pride.
Athletic complex. So
Can I
we
give
have
you a soda?
athletic.
Quality.
know. Hi, everyone. I'm Patty McCormick, the athletic director. Probably should start with either an apology or for my persistence and passion toward this project. I know at times has been overwhelming. It's been a 15-year stay for us and very excited about the prospect of getting this done. We have a lot of challenges. Our biggest one was this was in fact supposed to be a part of the original high school renovation, so we were behind the curveball then, and so we have grown farther and farther apart from our competitors to the point where it's a very noticeable decline in our facilities. And so it begins. We are working to not only get our facilities comparable, but actually to make them part of the pride of whole that we all come to love. We have a lot to do. I joke with Andy and say it's from the tree back, but the truth of the matter now is it's actually from the field house back, because our pool has reminded us it is unusable. So we service between single and multi-sport athletes, or 1,100 students, over 700 kids. So some people might look at athletic facilities and think, oh, it's just a handful of kids. That's no handful of kids. That's a huge bucket of kids that in one way or another participate in our programs. We have a real problem with our playing facilities. We are clay. We have water underneath. We've done everything we can to drain effectively, to make our fields able to grow grass. It's done. It can no longer happen. We've crowned the field twice, we've put grass seed down, we've done. So it's time to move toward the future where our kids can be safe on all facilities. And so that leads us to some of our improvements. The football field, baseball field, softball fields, soccer fields all need to go to a synthetic surface. We will have to relocate our tennis courts to make room for the pool. One of the priorities that I have with our pool is make it a part of our school. We can stick it in the front parking lot, we can stick it on the back of the campus, but that does not connect our kids, our PE kids, and our athletes, and our community in particular, to the facility. We want this to be an aquatic center. We want it to be community-centric. We want our baby swimming, we want our elderly folks swimming. So making it a part of our complex is really important. Right now our pool is, I don't even want to throw numbers out, but it's costing us a chunk of change every month. We just got done commuting our team up to Lake Central to practice for a week because, once again, our pool is down. So we tried to repair it the last time. We put bubble gum on a porthole, and at the end of the day, it cannot no longer withstand what we're asking it to do. We got some really, the way that we laid this out, I have to say it's pretty well thought through. We can save a lot of things that are out there. Some of our lighting, some of our electric is in place. We've replaced a lot of our lights. We've got some really good things. But I guess the one thing I want to get out of point 3 is we've tried to touch every single solitary program through this renovation, not just our outside sports, but we are going to do some inside renovations as well. But all the way back from the entrance into our facilities, every area will be identified as that area: tennis, soccer, football, track and field, all the way back. Be very welcoming and community-centric. Our tennis courts, because of where the pool will go, we've had some trouble with them collapsing and wearing out, and the foundation not good. They'll be moved over to the far side of our campus. The main reason being those two we want to be community-centric. We have a lot of people using our tennis courts. We think that's important. They can punch a button, turn the lights on. That should not change. Sound systems need to be improved. Parking. As we started to dive into this, one of the biggest concerns is, can grandma and grandpa get to the grandkids game? They can't. Right now, they need some sort of a segue to get to, which is not best practice, but to get to watch their kids play. Same thing with football. This plan will lay it out so that we're very welcoming for kids and for our elderly. And it gives us a much more secure environment back there. The benefits are obvious, not just our athletes, but our community. To make everybody involved proud. We hope to create some community partnerships, especially where our swimming is concerned. And we want want to catch up in terms of availability to our kids, not just pretty facilities. We want to put them in a position where they are in a place where they can practice every day. Sometimes our baseball team and softball teams get on their fields 2 days before they play. We just cannot dry them out. Fewer cancellations, much more consistent practice schedules. The turf facilities will allow us to be out there rain or shine, with the exception of Thunder. Okay, John. So that's where we're starting at. I think Kevin made me some pretty more notes in here, on a few more pretty notes in here, or am I done? Am I good?
You
Okay.
already talked about
Current
these.
challenges I've already hit, because Andy knew I would go off script.
You've already addressed all of those.
All of those things except for physical education and band. Our band currently practices in the front parking lot of our school. We already have a place in place where we already have lights, and a great place that we think we'll be able to put our band facility and our PE facility combined. So that's a great thing for us. We've been dreaming about it a long time. We know we need it, our kids know we need it, our community knows we need it. Very excited to have the opportunity to grow this.
Thank you. Thank
You bet.
And then
Elementary schools, we just spoke briefly about the demographer study. We know even in that moderate B series growth that we do see the growth and the classrooms that are available in our current schools to continue with classrooms, class sizes, and programming, plus all of the fixtures that go into making an elementary school. We want to make sure that we take into consideration what's best to keep those programs growing.
The middle school here, current challenges is that we've kind of got a hodgepodge of programs here that we want to be able to get them into some home programs. So preschool, central office, middle school opportunity center. We've got all of this going on in this building. We have a lot of capacity here at the building that we can use. There are needs for furniture and repairs here. This building is now currently going on 12 years old, I believe. Yeah, roughly 10 to 12 years old, so some things need some refresh here, branding, Kevin spoke about the outside signage and everything, and some general renovations within the district here, within this building itself.
And then to finish this out, with the high school, there are some needs with cosmetic updates, specifically in the restrooms. There's some programming limitations, specifically to gymnastics and cheerleading, and some issues with identifying the main entrance. Those also are accompanied by traffic pattern issues at arrival and dismissal and for visitors. So capital improvements, we're looking at possible painting, flooring, furniture, restroom updates, infrastructure repairs, signage and branding, converting that current pool area to a center for gymnastics, cheerleading, a performance lab, and possibly some virtual golf areas, relocate our cardio area downstairs up to the field house, and providing that and cable weights community access, along with the possible pool and the track on the field house, and expand our weight room, and possible relocation of offices, student services, media center, and cafeteria enhancements. All of those still on the list, and we believe that the district would benefit by improved efficiency, better community integration, and improved facilities for staff, students, and community.
If I were to send you Julie's, I'm not able to pick up the screen for some reason.
Is it the same that's listed in board docs?
I think I did. Yes, I did the other day, but it's probably only a PDF. Which will work.
How about this one?
That'll work.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just go back to that first picture. So, based on the presentation of needs and ideas to meet those needs, we're now back to present the idea of how you might finance that and what that impact will be to your community. We're looking at an estimated $95.5 million of bonds, or principal amount of bonds, of which, if you remember when I was here last time, if you could go to the bond market, or if you didn't have to go to the bond market, you could use all of that money for construction. In this case, the larger project, I'm estimating that all the cost of issuance, financing the bonds, attorney's fees, ratings, all of those things, could, on a conservative basis, could get up to $1.1 million or so. But there's another item in there that's capitalized interest. We have built in a budget item to protect the ability to smooth the tax rate in those early years, and also depending on how your plan may unfold as far as whether you fund it all at one time or in pieces. We put what we call capitalized interest, and capitalized interest is interest that's in the bond issue that we use to make payments instead of, in lieu of the school making payments, to smooth that tax rate or to allow us to work ourselves in to various phases of projects. Hopefully we can reduce that forces more money over to the construction side, but we wanted to share that that is a possibility as we sit right now. So that would give us about $90 million to take care of this. And that's kind of the exciting part. The next slide, if you go to that, this board, prior boards, the administration, as Dan has mentioned, it seems like you've been talking about this for quite a while. What's neat is that this can all be done within your existing tax rate and the proposed existing tax rate. If you recall, the red or burgundy at the bottom is your operation fund projection. The light orange or the little tiny bar in the middle is the pension bonds. The green represents your existing debt service before the bonds we sold yesterday. The blue represents the bonds we sold yesterday. However, I put this chart together before we sold bonds yesterday. We made some changes to allow more flexibility for this current project that we're talking about tonight. So what we did is this portion right here is exactly what it looks like what we sold. We took this portion of bonds and spread it out another 2 years and brought this down so we don't have this big piece here. That allows flexibility if we need to start a project early on this new phase, that we have room to put that. We have room to maybe not have capitalized interest. We can have the payment start instead of making those payments. So as we looked at the markets and the interest rates, we call it the yield curve. So short-term interest rates are lower, long-term rates are higher typically. But as you watch the news, the Fed keeps raising those short-term rates. So what's happened is that curve that normally goes from short-term to long-term climbing has really done this. So going those extra 2 years was not very expensive in the grand scheme of things to give you more flexibility for this particular project. So that's kind of what we went through yesterday. Those have been sold, rates have been locked in, and we're scheduled for closing on those. So those will be in place and in your levy for next year. The light yellow or orange color represents what our $95.5 million bond issue could look like. That could be one issue. It could be a series of issues. Sometimes some of your projects may lay out that if we can do 1 or 2 series over time, we may be able to save even more capitalized interest. And it just depends on your construction schedule and what needs to be done, but there's a lot of flexibility that way. And then if you go, and then let me hit a couple things before we go to the next slide. The highlight is 22 bonds, no increase here. So we're talking about all that fitting within our existing operations fund, debt service fund, and pension debt fund rates. That represents that. These are the items that we shared last time on the smaller project, but we estimate the worst case tax impact for this project, not the impact overall, but what this stands alone. And you'll see that that could be up to 86 cents and change in the highest point on its own, and a $15 million lease payment is the worst case lease payment. So at the time you consider passing these resolutions after the next hearing, that will be a major item that's in your, that's really where we're setting the maximum lease payment. We can can always come down, but we can't go over that. That is based on, we can stay there for a second. That's based on our market plus 1% and a 25-year repayment. If you recall, I've talked in the past, the state only allows you to borrow for 20 years. But again, to protect and give you that flexibility, if you do these bonds in series or phases, we wanted to have enough time in that original lease to let you do a 20-year now, maybe a 20-year, whatever combination makes it up. But that gives us that flexibility. Again, you can never sell any given issue for more than 20 years, but that lease can be for a period long enough that we can encapsulate whatever options we need as you develop the project. And then finally, there's a couple other things because of the size of this issue that have to be included in the resolution and for public input. It's more informational. First is your current debt service levy. That's straight off your budget this year. That's the 2022. That's $8.882 million per year. Your current debt service rate is 62.1 cents per $100 of assessed value. That's again right off your 22 budget. The maximum lease term is the 25 years we spoke about. The total interest cost, we have to take a look and estimate the total interest that could be paid at our highest interest rate assumption over that 25 years. Again, I assure you, that's a very conservative estimate. Again, it's one of those that we try to put our worst case foot forward, so we don't get caught with having too low of interest and markets have changed and things like that. That is estimated at $107 million. And then the last three are various ratios that the market looks at. Our legislature recently decided they want to put those ratios in here. The first ratio is your current debt service, so your total debt service payments that you're making now divided by your assessed value. That comes in at 0.82%. The other one is assuming the same thing but with the projected debt service. And it's a little higher only because we show this payment at its maximum. So I have to use that back at the original AV. In reality, you can see we're projecting the rates to come down, but because I have to use it today's assessed value, it gives a slightly higher ratio of 0.86%. And then finally, the last thing is overlapping and underlying debt. We look at your current debt today, and then we also have to look at all of the debt for any of your underlying and overlapping tax districts. So the county, the town of Lowell, the townships, any of those tax districts, we then allocate that share based on assessed value and put all those together, and that's kind of the market's way of looking, what is the debt burden on any given taxpayer in your district? And that came in at a little 5% and change. That is in the low to moderate range, so there's still plenty of room there. That is the market looks at that and does not get scared at all of that. It's a moderate debt rate. So again, more information than you needed, but it's something the legislature has asked us to put in the resolutions. It also does ask us for an estimate of your debt rate for the next 10 years, and that you'll see, but I show that graphically that we project those to go down if the assessed value assumptions are met. If they're exceeded, they'll go down further. If they're short a year or two, it will flatten. And then finally, the last slide. Just a reminder, under the current structure, even though we're able to do $95,500,000, we still project that you have quite a bit of flexibility, out in a few years to handle other needs. This is not taking up all of your capacity to proceed with these projects. Any questions of me?
Yeah, so our tax rate's gonna double?
No, this is showing your tax rate dropping.
Dropping. So that wasn't an add-on, that was a...
No, okay, if we can go back one slide. The resolution has to include the impact for this project by itself. So that's where this 86 cents is for just this project by itself. But as your other debt pays off, we then bring this debt in behind it. So your tax rate is here or here this next year, and then we show it kind of working its way down. So no, the individual number looks like it's higher, but with all the assumptions and over time, we project your tax rate not to increase anything over what you've already set up through your current debt and the most recent bond issue we just sold.
Okay, thank you.
So for the public hearing,
Anybody in the public has any questions or comments, concerns, or board members for that matter, this would be the appropriate time.
Did you say 950 million or no? Strike from the record.
I'm not gonna answer unless they ask me to answer.
He's been working too long with you, Patty. Okay, so seeing that there's no public comment, I guess we can close the portion of the public hearing.
Public hearing is now closed.
We
All
do
right.
not have any resolutions tonight because the statute requires that you hold 2 public hearings with this information before you consider approving going forward with the financing. So tonight, there are no resolutions.
Thank you.
I'm just a pretty face.
I can comment on that.
Prettier by the million.
There we are.
Alrighty. Technology, we want to authorize the administration to apply for a common school fund loan for technology.
Yes, Jay is recommending that we go for this loan opportunity here where he would purchase over the next year iPads for actually it's every school. For Oak Hill, Three Creeks, and Lake Curry would get iPads. The high school and middle school Apple TVs and some MacBook Air replacements at the high school to just refresh. And this is part of the cycle that we do so that our devices don't just die on us here. So it's part of the refresh program here.
How much?
This is for a total of $326,000 and change, which is what's allowable. It's based on our ADM, and it's typically at a rate of 1%. So
That's better than I thought it was.
No, it's not that bad.
Everybody else is talking millions.
No.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion. I'll
For
second.
what?
I thought we weren't gonna approve anything, as you just said earlier.
That was on the public hearing.
Okay. I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Opportunity for public comment on non-related items. We don't have any. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.